We are back. Or are we? That's what we're going to be discussing today. Welcome into Chatterbox Bearcats. This is the midweek show. I am Nick Niehaus. He is Eric Lilly, joining me as always every single week. I don't think of any better way to start off with the uncertainty of, are the Cincinnati Bearcats back, or did we just play three very beatable teams and we took care of business? Which still could mean that we're back. But we'll dive into that. We'll talk about Utah, how that game went. I believe both of us were in attendance. State of the program. I have the poll of the week. We'll get into the Iowa State preview, a massive game this weekend for the Bearcats. And then, of course, the mailbag. We'll wrap up with the mailbag. And I think we're both going into the mailbag blind from now on, which I think is the best way to do it because that's just raw, natural answers. As you see, I've been working on my house. So new setup. I got paint all over my hands. This is toughness, Lily, just like the Bearcats showed against Utah. What did you think against the Utes?
First of all, welcome to my life. I just see paint just 2 days later, on Sunday, it'll be on my elbow. And I had taken 3 showers since I worked last. It's where did that come from? But
it's brutal.
Good luck with the house, man. I know it sucks if you're not a painter. It's
brutal. But you know what? It's fun.
Call John Brandon, man.
I think I might have
Get him on there.
I might have to.
But yeah, the Utah game, I was excited to go. I wasn't feeling great, and the weather was shitty, and I, for a split second, considered just bailing and resting in bed, watching the game on my iPad. Ended up going down, and the first, it didn't feel great. You know how UCF and BYU, just the whole game, it just looked good. We looked better. We looked open. And the Utah game, even though we ended up winning by 10, it didn't have that smoothness to it to me. We saw a lot of things that I thought, recurring problems with this team. But we killed them on the boards. We flipped the script with the boards compared to the game a couple weeks ago with them. We won 41-29 after losing 41-23. So big flip there. I think that's what got us the win because with how Gabe was shooting and it just felt like they were Lovering in the first half was killing us running down the court, getting just easy buckets. And that's been a recurring thing this year of just teams kind of beating us down the court after we make a basket. That shouldn't happen with how hard it is for us to make baskets. So I was anxious for most of the game until that final stretch there. We didn't pull away to the last 4 minutes, but at this point, I can't complain. I think I tweeted during the game, the vibes are good, but this defense is just falling off a cliff right now. I think we're still top 25, but we were top 10 a couple weeks ago. So while I do love all the points and it's just more fun right now than it was because we're winning. Like you said, it could be the opponent, but right now I'm just going to bask in it and take the dubs.
I think that's the way to do it. And I think a lot of people would trade a top 10 defense for how the way our offenses looked. And you said you were nervous. That was one thing I remember, just thinking in the first half, I'm like, it seems like every single bucket that Utah is getting is so easy. They were getting easy layups, easy transition. And I say transition after makes, like you mentioned. Just easy dunks. Everything was easy, whereas Jizzle had to pull up, Dayday had to pull up, hit jump shots. Obviously not as easy as two-hand slam with nobody on you. So that worried me. I was like, man, you compare, yeah, they're both 2 points, but one is going to be more consistent than the other, especially with how we've seen this Bearcat team shoot. So that worried me. But Jizzle, man, he's just, I don't know what's gotten into him sometimes. And I know we said in that rough stretch that sometimes the obvious answer is the correct one. And it's like these guys could not shoot the ball whatsoever. And maybe the obvious answer is the right one here where we're winning because our guards are hitting shots. They're just making shots. Like no in-depth analysis from Nick Niehaus here. We won because we're starting to make baskets. But it could be that. But like you said, the rebounding was really awesome to see as well. Aziz had 10 points, a double-double, or 10 rebounds, and, double-digit points as well. So a double-double for Aziz Bandaogo, where I don't know if it was the Utah game on the road or the West Virginia game where he had 3 rebounds. And we were just saying how inexcusable that was. But good boards out of Aziz Bandaogo because the whole fan base has been all over him as well. And overall, you can't really point at a single player and say anything negative. I guess Dan didn't have, the greatest game until the end, which I guess just happened again against BYU, but he's the only one. But why focus on the negative? Jizzle is back. Dayday has emerged as a leader of this team. And Aziz Bandaogo played hard. I think Dylan Mitchell, in terms of the plus minus, which you got to break it down for me, how the intricacies of plus minus, because after what we saw with, what was it, Richie Saunders on BYU had minus 35 against us, and he had 15 points, which is a 50-point. I mean, that accounts for 50 points, if my math adds. But anyway, Dylan Mitchell was the only one with like minus 6. Everybody else was around, if anything, minus 2 or positive. So good game out of everybody.
Yeah, and you mentioned Jizzle at the beginning there. Niehaus, can we get a middle ground here? Like, do we always have to just shoot the lights out or not make any shots at all? If we could just middle ground the whole season, we probably have 2 or 3 more wins here. It's driving me crazy.
Yeah, it's hard. It's 40 points or 86. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, like what's the deal? But, like you said, don't want to complain. This has been fun. We were joking, like literally on the last podcast or the one before that, about how we aren't going to score 70 again. We've scored 80 plus the last 3 games. Like, sometimes things just don't make sense in college basketball. And that's, to me, that's why I have hope right now. Because if you look at our schedule, it's like we need to win 5 out of 7, and we play 3 really good teams that we haven't beaten yet this year. So you need a little delusional hope right now to think we can beat one of those teams. So I'm gonna hold on to that, but I don't want to dump topics here. But
well, I can't believe. Let me finish with this before we do jump topics, because I have one last thing to say. I can't believe I forgot to bring up Josh Reed. I called into the post-game show just to give my flowers to Josh Reed and apologize to him, because if anybody has dogged Josh Reed, or at least his ceiling, it has been me. So the emergence of Josh Reed has been amazing to see. Amazing to see. Good for him, because he's somebody who's, been here for a few years. Nobody really, like, you go into the season and how many people are going to say, when asked who your favorite player is it Josh Reed? So the fact that, he is doing this, he's probably getting a ton of new fans and, earning himself some money, which is important to these guys. So good for Josh Reed. All right. I fully apologize. Never again will I doubt him.
I should too. I mean, I didn't say anything too crazy, but he's kind of just a guy to me, and for him to step up and we talked about this. I said, like, our biggest moment of the season was a Xavier player missing a shot, right? Yeah. Yeah. Here, the last week or two, we've had moments. Like, the UCF win was really cool. Josh Reed, these last 2 games at home, that's the most fun we've had in the arena in a long time. These are the moments that you can carry on and remember this season with, instead of just being like, before this 3-game win streak, it's like everyone's saying this is my least favorite UC team of my life, stuff like that. So it's cool to see. Sports are about more than winning national championships. Hopefully this turns into something more special, but right now it's cool to have that. And also, we're on a 3-game streak of 20 plus scorers here after having won all season. Shout out Jizzle. And one other thing I wanted to bring up is we talked about the bench a lot during those 2 losing streaks. And CJ hit a couple threes. Betsy hit a couple threes. We're not hearing much talk about those guys, and they kind of they made an impact. We won by 10, but like if we're not making those threes, it's going down to the wire. Like if CJ and Betsy don't step up, plus Reed's 3 threes, that's 3, 5, 7 threes right there from guys that had zero impact in January. Zero. So Bench Mob's figuring it out. Page not so much, but maybe his turn's next.
It's awesome to see Betsy finally start to make some, because he was somebody that I think Hudson was always saying, it's like you look at Betsy's shot and it looks like it should be going in. Like the form is there, he has confidence, and it just wasn't falling for a few games. So to see him step up and make some shots, it really is as simple as that. You solve a lot of problems that you had when the ball is going through the hoop. So yeah, I'm glad you shouted those guys out as well, because you could really point to a lot of these guys in Saturday's BYU game and Tuesday's Utah game, and individually thank them for performing.
Yeah, and the Betsy real quick on Betsy again. You see where he's taking these threes from? Like that stuff matters.
Yeah.
Like when you're shooting NBA threes, it matters so much for an offense. It gives more space for other guys to move around and do stuff. So if that's popping on the scouting report, then we're going to get better.
It's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Switching gears here, we're going to go to our poll of the week, because this is a cop-out kind of poll for me. I could have gone with a ton of stuff, but I've done it before, but I added a little science experiment to this one. I had 2 polls. Cincy fans, do you believe the Cincinnati Bearcats can make the NCAA tournament? That was the first one. And then the second one was, do you believe the Cincinnati Bearcats will make the NCAA tournament? I tweeted them back to back. I'm sure, Elon's algorithm, maybe it didn't reach both people. I had, a good amount more votes on the can they than the will they. But still, I was just curious. I was like, people probably believe in this team. Like the fact that we can get it done, but do people believe they will get it done? I think that, one word changes everything in this. So can the Bearcats make the NCAA tournament? 63% said yes. Again, you kind of pointed out to me, you're like, polls after a win, polls after a loss, what do they really mean? People are just either super excited or pissed off. So you can't really look too much into this. But you told me 2 weeks ago, can they make the tournament? You're getting 15% saying yes. So the roller coaster of Cincinnati fans, like people are just starving to make the tournament, even as an 11 seed. But will they make the tournament? 54% said yes. So a little less, belief. I think we look at the schedule and the wins are there in terms of if you can beat some of these teams, you're in. Like we still have opportunities. It's just a matter of, are they going to seize the opportunity? So I kind of want to get into that. So let's hear your thoughts. And of course, we're going to have to break down the future schedule and see what the path is to making the big dance.
Can, yes. That should be 100%, guys. Come on. Even the pessimists. Yes, we can. Will? I'm going to say no. I think I saw the ESPN thing. They finally fixed their stupid algorithm.
Yeah. Hold up. We went from 75%
to 27
to 27 after winning 3 in a row. What in the world? God,
my
ESPN,
model.
we could go an hour about the downfall of ESPN, but let's just move on.
Yeah. My model, which is my brain, it's got just as many glitches as ESPN's model, probably more. Has us at like 10 to 15%. It's possible. And that jumps like crazy if you win this game on Saturday. It triples, maybe quadruples. I'm not giving up. This team hurt me, and I've seen what I've seen. I don't trust them to win 5 out of 7. But the one thing I do like is that the path is clear. Even like the casual of the casuals can like look at our schedule and tell you what we need to do right now. I think we got to win 5 out of 7. Can't lose the games versus the teams at our level or worse, and you got to win one of those other 3. And that puts you at, in my opinion, over 90%. And the scenario where you don't get in a 10-10 is if like multiple bids are stolen. So I like being able to see the path. But the thing about college basketball is it usually just doesn't work out how you think it's going to. So let's beat the Cyclones and flip the script.
That would be an absolute massive win. I thought about this, and the fan in me wanted to say yes to both, but then I'm like, no, I have to say this behind a microphone on a podcast that people listen to. And I just don't think so. I just don't think they're going to do it. I think they can, obviously when you said it should be 100% on the it should, because that's the right answer. They can, the opportunities are there. Despite the 3-game winning streak, nothing has changed from the season so far. Like, to me, nothing has changed. And the reason I'm saying that is because we've been beating teams we should beat this whole year. We're just losing to teams. Now, granted, this is after we learned that we're not a top 10, top 15 team like we previously thought preseason early on in the non-con. But we beat BYU, and that's the only one where we're like, this team's probably better than us. That's the only one. And also, they're the only tournament team we have beaten so far. They're the only team we have beaten that is projected to make the tournament. So, yes, winning 3 in a row feels great, and it's finally good to win some. But these are teams we should be beating. It felt so awful, and it felt like we were the worst team in the Big 12, that now people are jumping for joy that we finally have won some. And I have stats to prove this. I know I'm probably like pissing people off because like I'm like telling people to, halt the brakes, but the quad 2 has never been the issue. We just won quad 2 games. That's what we just did. Wes is a quad 2 merchant. Like, the guy thrives in the quad 2. And that's what we just did. We just won quad 2. Our average net win is 177. Now, granted, that's non-con, like we're winning 300s, that's that obviously factors a lot into it. But our average net loss is 38. So that tells you we don't lose to bad teams. We take care of business. We beat the bad teams. We just, you sprinkle Houston, you sprinkle Iowa State, that 177 goes way lower. Now, I'm sure that's a lot of people's resume, right? The average net win is going to be way high because the non-con. I wish I could break that down a little more, but 0 teams firmly in the tournament that UC has beaten. So, I don't know. It's still like, it's crazy. We're February 13th, and it's like, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, and we're not the only team, like you said, we're not the only team that has a resume like Xavier's. If you look at Xavier's bracketologists.com, anybody check that out. It's great for quick visual, and the schedule's there for quadrants. It's like identical to ours. And Wake Forest, very close. They're like the ACC version of us. They lost to Florida State tonight, so they've got their Q3 loss there. Now we have an advantage, like head-to-head. If they were looking at our resume versus Wake, obviously we're ahead now. But our resume is very much around 0 bad losses and just couldn't beat those elite teams. So, like, having one, like if you beat Iowa State or Houston, having that, like, one statement win, that's a tiebreaker, like, to the committee, in my opinion. Like, that's, like, look, at these guys can beat great teams. I don't think we can do it, though. Like, to be clear,
no.
Houston, I just don't think we can beat. But we'll get to Iowa State here soon. I think it's possible, but
they haven't shown us. They haven't shown us anything for us to feel confident saying we can beat an elite team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I started the podcast saying, "Are we back?" It's not like I'm down on this team. Like, I'm having fun. Don't get me wrong. but those are 3 games you should have won. UCF on the road's tough. UCF on the roads, they're not a bad as far as UCF goes. This is probably one of the better UCF teams, but like it's Central Florida. You know what I mean? Come on, like so they haven't shown us anything for us to feel confident saying. But you tell me, we win on Saturday. I think we can go. I think we will make it if we win on Saturday. Absolutely.
That would show like a clear and like obviously right now it's like we're getting better. We're beating the teams we should beat, but that would be a like, oh shit, like we are better. Like not just
you beat Iowa State on the road, then it's like I think we'll beat Baylor at home.
That would be one of the best wins all season by any team. To the committee. And we need that, man. Yeah. Like the last time we had a win that big was at Iowa State, like what was that, 7 years ago? Kevin Johnson team.
Oh my gosh.
I was there. Beautiful, beautiful day.
Oh, you were at Iowa State. You made the trip.
Yeah, it was a weeknight game, and not exaggerating, there were 4 UC fans there. Me, Dane Steven, who some of you probably recognize on Twitter, PC Bearcat. We saw him in the upper deck with his kid. So if I'm counting his kid here, there were 4 UC fans in the entire arena. Crazy place. You guys should check it out, but probably not this Saturday.
Diehards right there. Well, let's briefly talk about the rest of the schedule since we brought it up and like we're talking about the path to the tournament. You sort of texted us, you tweeted out difficulty. And you had at West Virginia above Baylor at home. So kind of break down for me what you think of the rest of the schedule. And then also we have some tiers. I don't know if you made a tier list. I did not, but Charlie, our fearless leader, sent us his tiers. So I'm going to get into some tiers of the Big 12.
Yeah. And Baylor is just so thin right now. Like they're down. I tweeted about how their big man's out for the year. They've been banged up all year. They're playing 6 guys, 7 guys now, but they don't go to 8. They are that thin. And sometimes that's good. But when you don't have a bye, like we're playing 20 games here and there's no break. We're getting them in late February. That's got it. And I'm going to sound crazy here because we thought we had a good spot against them last time. I said on the podcast before we played at Baylor, we got stomped. Was Baylor had 2 guys out. This should be a chance to get a statement win here, and we got smoked. But it still applies here. They're small now. They're 2 centers. There's going to be 6'7", plus home court advantage. I really respect West Virginia's home crowd. I'm just putting that ahead. And right now, Ken Palm agrees. 5, they have West Virginia beating us by 5, and right now they have Baylor beating us by 1. So kind of going with the Vegas lines on that, but also just I do think Baylor is kind of going to run out of gas here towards the end of the season. They do have an easy stretch coming up, but this isn't the NBA. They're not going to rest players or anything like that. So I have, just to run through it really quickly, Iowa State and Houston as the 2 hardest by far. Same tier, even though I think Houston is much more likely to beat us than Iowa State. After that, at West Virginia, and then home Baylor. I think the craziest part is I combined home Baylor and home Kansas State. The Wildcats are hot right now.
6 in a row.
6 in a row. They're trending right. In my head, Baylor's trending wrong due to injury and just fatigue. So I'm grouping those 2 together. And the rest is just TCU home, Oklahoma State away. Those are the 2, what they should be gimmies. Big 12 gimmies are not gimmies, but you know what I mean. So that's our remaining 7. We got to win 5. And if you win 4, you got to win 3 in the tournament.
Everybody's been talking about it today. 5-2 gets you in. 5-2. So if you lose Iowa State and Houston, that leaves no hiccups. right? Well, I guess if you lose against two bad teams, it leaves no hiccups against the good teams. But everybody just pencils in Oklahoma State and TCU. It's like, all right, we just got to beat one of three of Iowa State, Houston, and Baylor. And then you got TCU, you got Oklahoma State, you got West Virginia. It's like, no, those, I can just see it now winning 4 games, having Oklahoma State in the last game and just falling flat on our face. You know what I mean? In the final game of the year. Like those, like you said, they're not gimmies. So you can't just pencil those in as W's. Although it's, as I'm saying that, maybe you can, because again, that hasn't been our problem, is beating bad teams. And they're not bad by any means, but in terms of the Big 12, everything's relative. They're not good. So, maybe you don't worry about those games.
Yeah, like Oklahoma State's 15 spots lower than Utah in KenPom. We lost to Utah on the road, but like they're significantly worse than Utah. So if it's a must win at Oklahoma State, you should win the game because they're not playing for anything at that point. And this conversation is killing me, man, because if you just beat Utah or West Virginia, we have like the path is just, it's there, like this is why I was being optimistic during the losing streak. It's because I thought we would win one of those games, but this is supposed to be a positive podcast.
Yeah, I can't believe that.
My fault.
No, you're good. I just can't believe that West Virginia lost. That was truly, that's probably up there on like recent losses for me. That just, I just couldn't believe. Anyway, I love you come off mute.
The Oklahoma State home game last year was a tough one for me.
That was tough. I was at that one as well. All right, Charlie gave us tiers for the Big 12 that I want to just run through because I like them. I don't know if you made them. Did you make any tiers?
In my head.
Okay. So here it is from Charlie. I'm going to run these quick because, like you mentioned, good, bad podcasting. In this top tier, he has Death, Taxes, Kelvin Sampson. Of course, Houston. And then he has Iowa State in that as well. Next one, Death, Taxes, sometimes Tommy Lloyd. Obviously, Arizona. He has People Will Take Them to Final Four good. Texas Tech, which you have loved Texas Tech. So I know that you agree with him there, unless something has changed. Next here, WTF. That's Cincinnati and West Virginia. Sneaky bad. BYU and Arizona State. And ESPNU, TCU, UCF, Oklahoma State. I feel like he should put like ESPN plus. And then, there's one more. One shining moment of crying dudes after an upset, and that's Kansas and Baylor. So I think I can't find any holes. The sneaky bad in Arizona State, they might be more than sneaky bad at this point. Like people don't even have them in the brackets at all. They're off the bubble, it seems. BYU sneaky bad. I think that's accurate. I see no holes in the Charlie tiers. Except for ESPNU. You know what? ESPNU is worse than ESPN Plus, in my opinion. So I kind of like that, actually. I'm talking myself into that.
Yeah, I have a couple disagreements. I have Houston and Iowa State in the top tier. I'm not going to give clever names like Charlie did, but I'll run through it. Tier 2, I've got Arizona, Texas Tech. I would have Texas Tech ahead of them in that tier. Kansas, and Baylor. Got a loose tier 2 here. I think they're all good enough to make a run in the tournament, and none of them are good enough to win the Big 12. After that, I've got a group of just underachievers and overachievers that are on the fringe. Cincinnati, Kansas State, BYU. I think I'm putting – man, I don't know what to do with Kansas State. I think I'm going to put BYU in front of us and Kansas State there. I know it sounds funny right now. West Virginia's in that one as well. I think they're the worst team in that tier. They're drastically overachieving, in my opinion, without DeVries. Javon Small has been crazy this season. After that, it's just whatever teams like TCU, Utah, UCF, Arizona State. I put Arizona State at the top of those just because they're fun and they have talent. And then Oklahoma State right below that by themselves. And the only reason they're by themselves is because Colorado deserves their own tier at the bottom. They're 0-13 in conference. They're so bad that Charlie didn't even include them.
He did in a follow-up text, actually. He said Pac-12, Colorado, and Utah.
Yeah. That work. I'll give him that. And right now, as we're speaking, Texas Tech, Arizona State is in double overtime. The Red Raiders are up 104-103.
Oh,
so we're missing a classic there.
I'm going to put that on. No, that's funny. I think Texas Tech is just so good. And I think they are very similar to the team we're going to play on Saturday. So let's get into that. Let's preview Iowa State as I'm put. What channel is that on, by the way? Is that ESPN Plus?
Man, I just had it on. I'm YouTube TV, so I just see the game and click on it.
All right. Well, let's talk Iowa State. Iowa State. Let me get into that. 19-5, 9-4 in the Big 12. They're in fourth place currently. At one point, we didn't think they were going to lose 4 games in the Big 12. Like they were looking like they were going to. I think Charlie made the declaration where he was like, we had 3 losses and we're like, well, Big 12 championship's over because Iowa State's not losing 3 times. So they've lost a couple to West Virginia, Arizona, Kansas State, and Kansas, but they're riding back-to-back wins, TCU and UCF. They were missing their stud. Can you pronounce his name for me? Is it Milan Momcilovic? I
think you're wrong, but I don't have the right one. No, that works. I'm calling him Milan. That was my plan.
Anyway, that's who we're looking at.
CBS Sports Network, by the way.
Oh, then turning the TV off. So they were missing him for a couple games, right? He averages 10 points a game. Curtis Jones is their leading scorer at 17 points a game, but 5 guys average double-digit scoring. I got more to talk about him, but you kind of give me your initial thoughts.
Quick question. Is CBS Sports Network worse than ESPNU and your power rankings?
Yes, because I don't have YouTube TV. So I'm working on like an ESPN account, like a cable login, and I don't have CBS Sports Network. So on the UC games or their CBS Sports Network, just it's hush hush.
Gotta head to the bar.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I hate CBS Sports Network.
I'm going to start with the positives on Iowa State. The positives from Cincinnati's perspective. I feel like I've said this quite a few times this year and it never works out, but maybe the odds are in our favor for once. They don't shoot threes and they let the opponent shoot threes, which, it sounds like, oh, we got a shot here. But like those are the teams that can get upset, in my opinion, because 3 is more than 2. And if you have an outlier 3-point shooting game, look at Arizona State right now. They're still probably going to lose, but you give yourself a chance if you have a really good shooting night against teams like this. The issue is we played these guys last year and turned it over 45 times, I think, something like that, maybe 65 or 75. They make you so uncomfortable. They're going to beat you in the possession game. So the path to winning is making threes and just a few less turnovers than expected. They play really fast on offense. So when you turn the ball over, they're getting buckets. They are crazy in transition with the 2 guards you mentioned, Gilbert and Lipsy, Jones too. I think like before the season, I think I had Iowa State number 1 in the conference. They're awesome. I actually truly love watching them play. Like one of my favorite teams this year. And since Milan has came back, they have been jumping back up in KenPom. And they were 16 or they are 16-1 with Milan this year. 3-4 without him. So that little stretch they had where people were saying they're overrated was conveniently when their 6'8" 3-point shooter was out. Like, just shows like how much people can kind of push narratives and stuff. They're going to be fine, guys. I don't feel good about this one because he's back and they just immediately started killing teams again. They're back up to number 7 in KenPom. And for the negatives, more negatives here from Cincinnati's perspective. They're top 20 in offense, top 10 in defense. They aren't bad at anything. Like the bad thing is the shot profile. They are not bad at anything. The only red thing on their KenPom is opponent's free throw percentage, which is something they cannot control. So it's a well-rounded team. They're old. They played a ton together. They're tall. They can shoot when they do shoot. And, they get to the line, physical guys. I don't feel good about this one, Niehaus.
That's what it sure sounds like. A couple things. First, I can tell why you like these guys because, and maybe not the style they play, but I have one comparison to another team you like, Texas Tech. And that's just simply the personnel they have. One thing that stands out to me, and this is because this has been an absolute insane turnaround for Iowa State. We're talking about a team that won two games in 2020. 2. That's DePaul bad. That's like UMass at one point, right? Wasn't UMass that bad, or am I thinking of football? But DePaul, it was that bad. So
DePaul definitely works there.
Yeah, I'll stick to DePaul. TJ Otzelberger, man. Insane turnaround. They're top 5 good. And the reason I'll get to the point with Texas Tech, they're all mid-major guys. 6 out of their 8 rotation players. And when I say rotation, now look, I'm not grinding the tape of Iowa State watching them as much as Lilly has. I'm painting my house. All right, give me a break. But double-digit minutes. So that's what I judge the rotation on. So they might go 9, I don't know. 6 out of 8 mid-major transfers. Curtis Jones, Buffalo. Keyshawn Gilbert, UNLV. Joshua Jefferson, St. Mary. Taman Lipsey, he's homegrown, third-year guy, committed out of high school. Same as Milan. So they're probably 2 best players, in different ways other than Curtis leading the way scoring. Deshaun Jackson, Charlotte. Nate Heiss, Northern Iowa. Brandon Chatfield, Seattle. The scouting that this coaching staff has done is outstanding. So credit to them. All mid-major.
Like 6 out of the 8 are mid-major, and the other 2 were recruited out of high school. That's like, I think that's dead on Texas Tech, like literally.
Yeah. I said the same thing on the preview of Texas Tech. They're all, I think it was only 2 who weren't. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was only 2 who weren't. I just like that stuff like this makes me realize I would never be able to recruit or coach in college basketball. How do they do that? How do you see a guy at Seattle or Buffalo and you're like, he's our missing piece? Like, this absolute impressive stuff from Iowa State. Because 2 wins 4 years ago, or I guess 5. Now 4 years ago. 4 seasons ago.
They went from 2 wins to Sweet 16 in 1 year.
Yeah, he hasn't missed a tournament.
Mm-hmm.
TJ
and he wasn't even a slam dunk hire. Like he got worse in his second year at UNLV. There were people that were upset with that hire. Like, not joking.
Oh man. I mean, it's crazy. I think we need him to like start sizing up on the polos. I think that's where he gets his powers, or when his biceps are ripping out of his shirt.
Or stop lifting like 5 times a day.
Oh my gosh, that's always funny to see. He's got like a schmedium on the sidelines. But yeah, man, I'm jealous. Frankly, I'm jealous. I wish this was us. I know we weren't 2 wins 4 years ago, but we had 3 rostered players, and here we are still in year 4. And I'm not going down that train of Fire West or anything of that nature because, we've taken care of business in the last week or so, but this is just a damn good program and a really good team.
And a model we should try to follow. Like, I know our NIL is solid and we're in a good spot going forward because of the arena and we have a lot of fan support. So does Iowa State. They probably have more than us, but there is a path to greatness. And also, this is why I get so mad at people that like whenever you get a transfer from a mid-major, like, why can't we get these high major guys? It's like there's so many examples of teams that are built like this that succeed. It's like you can't just say someone's going to suck because of where they're coming from in basketball. But I guess like you see Kalu Ezekbe and stuff like that, and you get a little PTSD there, I guess.
Well, I don't think we've had the best track record with the mid-major guys. I think that's
correct.
Kalu and now Hickman, it doesn't seem like it's working out. TBD, I guess, but no. So we'll see.
Dayday is JUCO, so that doesn't count. Yeah, we don't have a great
Javen Cumberland. I like Javen Cumberland.
Yeah, seriously, I think that's the most recent one.
Is that number 1? Man. I think that's number 1.
I'm sure Mick had a guy that we forget about.
Oh yeah, I'm kind of going more recent, but yeah.
Yeah. It might be though. Seriously,
I think it might be.
It wasn't Chris Vogt.
No, I'd take Javen over him. The other thing I look at with this Iowa State team is last year's game against Cincinnati. Man, that Lilly, you mentioned Oklahoma State, in that loss hurting you last year. I said West Virginia, but at last year's game against Iowa State, that was maybe the worst performance I think I've ever seen at home and Fifth Third Arena. So yeah,
25 turnovers.
Yeah, we couldn't even get the ball up the court, and it was only a 9-point loss. So I don't know. That's what I'm looking at. It's just how bad last year was, and I don't know. It hurts. Let's see. CMOS had 15, Jizzle 16, Skillings 13, but nobody else showed up. Taman Lipsey, Curtis Jones, they both had 15 points there. So do you want to move on to mailbag, Lilly? Or you got more to talk about Iowa State?
Yeah, real quick, like just referring to, since you're just talking about that game, I think we'll know in the first 5 minutes if we got a shot in this one. Like, have our guards, Dayday and Jizzle, they both played in that game and combined for 11 turnovers in 40 minutes, which is insane. We will know very quickly if they've since they've seen it and felt it, if they were able to adjust, get better in that. It's been a year. If they can improve on that. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it will be better, but the Cyclones are a much better team than us, in my opinion.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the mailbag. We're about 43 minutes in. I'm going to go a little solo for a couple. Bearcat Nut send in 3 questions. So he sent in, he's averaging about 5 questions a week, because I think he sent in 8 last week. We already answered one. What record down the stretch do we realistically need to make the NCAA tournament, regardless of the Big 12 tournament? Now, this is, look, I said at the top of the podcast that we're going into these blind. So maybe some of these are going to be repetitive. So maybe actually I should read these before the mailbag segment. But again, 5-2 and you feel good. 5-2 and you feel good. 4-3, I think, what does that put us at? 19 wins. And then you realistically have to win 3 in the Big 12 tournament. But if you only win 4, one's got to be Houston or Iowa State. And I truly just don't feel good at that point. At this point, beating one of those two teams, just because we still haven't done that this season. So, yeah, I would say 5 wins, maybe 4. He also asked, what has been the biggest change offensively, and don't say dodgeball, that has given this team a spark? Lily, what do you think?
I think, I'm not a big narrative storyline guy, with the dodgeball stuff. It's fun, but Wes has said some things around that kind of caught my attention, just regarding loosening up a little and having fun. Again, not dodgeball, but you can tell they're having fun playing right now. And I think that's part of it, but I also think our guards have been much more intentional about attacking and getting to their spots and shooting. I think during both of those losing streaks, do you just remember those possessions on the perimeter where it was just pass? Like nobody took a chance. Nobody believed in themselves to beat their guy and get to their spot. Like, I wanted to gouge my eyes out. And I think that's most UC fans felt that.
Yeah.
The last 3 games, while we're playing worse competition, I understand that. But like, the amount of points we're scoring shows that we have improved drastically. And Jizzle's getting to his spots. Dayday's getting to his spots. And when Jizzle misses 2 in a row, Dayday gets to his spot and makes one. And then Jizzle comes back and makes one. And then, magically, Tyler Betsy's getting open threes. Josh Reed's getting open threes. We're still not seeing, like, perfection, obviously. Like, CMOS isn't getting his looks. But we're seeing, I'm just talking about guards right now, but look at Aziz. Mitchell had a really good game against UCF. Aziz versus BYU and Utah was just, haven't seen many tweets about his offense the last week, like he's getting lobs. He's also just rolling and getting dunks as well. And I think it just all goes hand in hand with guys getting to their spots and forcing the opponents to respect us a little more. And I think it's all related back to having more fun and confidence while having fun, if that makes sense.
Yeah, what's the saying in baseball? Hitting is infectious. And there's no rhyme or reason for that, in baseball. But there's something to be said about in basketball. When one guy starts hitting down, knocking down shots, then, like you said, they got to respect it. That leaves an open look for Tyler Betsy. So I think from the start of 80 plus, 90 plus points, it's Jizzle. It's Jizzle. Jizzle couldn't shoot at all in Big 12 play before this 3-game stretch. Now, I think he had a couple decent games, actually, right? But there were 1 for 7, 1 for 9, 2 for 10. He was shooting poor. Now he's getting to his spot, like you mentioned, pull up shot, elbow, knocking those down. And we've seen he's been able to do that for 2 years. He did it in high school. How many times does a guy come out of high school and somebody's like, dude, this guy's mid-range is nasty? Like that was the saying with Jizzle. And now he's knocking down these mid-range shots. And people have to respect it. And shooting is infectious. When one guy's on.
Not to cut you off, but
you're good.
Like, there's other things that happen too. Like, when you see 2 guys closing out Jizzle on a mid-range, we're more likely to get the offensive rebound. Stuff like there's a domino effect thing that's been going on these last 3 games, in my opinion. So hope it continues with Iowa State.
I think it might have started with the Edgerrin James's text to Jizzle where he's like, where's my boy? Where's my boy been?
Or was it Bob Huggins' speech?
Yeah. It wasn't the dodgeball. It was one of those 3.
It certainly isn't like practice or like a mindset shift with the players. It's definitely just something else like dodgeball.
Yeah, right. Last question from him. He said, rate your happiness through this 3-game win streak. Let's enjoy this moment. 10. I'm a 10. Like, I'm not going to think about the teams we haven't beaten during this, because oh my God, this isn't NFL football where you tank. Like, losing does nothing. So it's not like I'm like, you know what, let's just throw in the towel the rest of the season. I'm whatever. No, win some games. It doesn't get you a better draft pick. So I'm a full on 10. We've looked awesome. We've scored points. Jizzle is back. Dayday's emerged. These guys are looking like they're having fun again when we thought they were quitting on the team. So I can't be happier.
Yeah, I'm going 9. And the 1 is simply just thinking about past trauma.
Yeah.
It's just like, I have trouble. I'll just be laying in bed thinking, we really lost that Utah game, didn't we? Wow. Like, are we sure that happened? But yeah, the 3-game win streak's been great. And after the West Virginia we lost, we talked about what we want to see from this team down the stretch, and immediately 3 straight wins. And I mentioned we're going to change our opinions on players based on who responds to this. We're seeing, like, I saw people saying, I mean, I had a list. You saw my list. I didn't tweet it out because I think it's weird, but people wanting guys to transfer and stuff that are now cooking. So give them time. Let's see what happens here.
Kind of one of those transfer guys, or at least hopefully not. And people are talking about it. Matthew McDoom burner tweeted, "What kind of future potential do you see in Tyler Betsy?" So that is a guy you absolutely want to stay. But like, you see people are like, "Oh, well, Betsy's gone. Like, why would he want to stick around?" Like, shut up. Man, I gotta say, like, I love shooters. You know what I mean? Like, that's my number one. Like, if you had to give me a favorite player, like, it's a shooter. You know what I mean? Like, I came into the season saying Connor Hickman was going to be my favorite player, which is now funny looking back. But I love it. Now, I don't know. Like, do you see him as a guy who's going to be able to develop a game outside of that spot up shooter? Because he's big, but he doesn't seem, he's not quick. What do you see?
So first of all, shooting is, I mean, the whole point of basketball is to score more points than the other team. And he's 6'8", and shooting 35% as a freshman in the Big 12, in a Big 12 schedule. Those are guys, even if you don't see other stuff, that you just want to keep. And I find it really hard to like project stuff like this with young players, but I don't see any reason why you can't. The slow stuff, I don't think that's a negative. I think he has a really good like hesitation to his game. We've seen it a couple times recently where he like pump fakes drives, and it hasn't had like crazy results, but the fact that he's even doing that suggests to me that he can get better at it. A lot of guys won't even try it. So I would love to have him back. I hope we keep him, and the kid's oozing with talent.
Well, and you know what I like, and you mentioned it earlier, the shots he's taking. Like, this kid is confident. Like, you know who he reminds me of in terms of just the shot selection, and not in a bad way? Jaron Cumberland, Landers Nolly. Like, those guys didn't see a shot they didn't like. Jaron was obviously green light city. Like, the guy could take any shot in the world and would have been fine. And Landers too. And I'm not going the Jeremiah Davenport route, because he took shots that we didn't like. But the guy is taking these deep shots, and he is selective, right? He's not taking bad shots, but I like what I see in terms of the shot selection. It's confidence.
Yeah, and we were talking about this at the bar after the game. His shots, like, it always feels like he's open, even when he's getting closed out. Like, and I know it's slow-mo, but something about it makes it feel wide open. I think it's his height probably, but it's not like his release point is super high. So if he can see the rim and get the shot off, to me, he's wide open.
Yeah, I like it. The Matthew McDoom burner. He also said, "Do you like Do you love Matthew McDoom? Yeah, he looks sweet.
That's my CB1 right there, Matthew McDoom burner.
Yeah. King Wes Miller at Let Wes Cook. Is it time to panic on Dan in CMOS?
Didn't that already happen?
Yeah, I think the time has passed. I
want to say something quick on this, though. CMOS, no. I think CMOS is what he is. If you look at his stats year to year, it's almost identical, sophomore through senior. Obviously, freshman's different. But if he gets to his spots, he's going to make a lot of them. And I think that he has been like the one that suffered almost the most during that rough spell. It's like people were pointing at him like, why are you not elevating this team? And I just think it's safe to say right now that he is who he is. And if Jizzle and Dayday and guys keep performing, CMOS is going to have his nights. I promise. Like, he's going to start getting – teams are still chasing him around. I don't think they're going to stop doing that unless Jizzle just continues going crazy. But not worried about him at all. Dan, I am. I will say I think he's responded really well to – whatever's been going on, even during the Utah game where like that 3-minute stretch in the first half was maybe the worst 3-minute stretch I've ever seen from a Bearcat. And I mean, I heard some boo birds in the upper deck and it kind of pissed me off because I thought he was playing hard. And that's the thing this year is like he's kind of felt a little out of place. And I think the last couple of games he's really been playing his ass off. And most of the mistakes have been about indecisiveness, stuff like that. Like, I just don't think that's when you boo someone. I think that's ridiculous. So
yeah, he grabbed 3 offensive rebounds in the same possession.
And he missed them all. So like, it's like the effort was there, right?
Yeah. They just can't shoot.
Yeah. So, but if he plays like that, he'll be fine. So no, I'm less worried about both of them now than I was 10 days ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think CMOS just didn't progress to what we wanted him to be, but Dan, I am worried. But I guess that kind of rolls into this last question. We have a few minutes, and you're going to hate this. Honest Abe said, who will be returning for next year on the current Bearcats team? Do Dayday and Aziz have an additional year or two of eligibility now? I think the assumption is that Dayday absolutely does. Aziz, I think that's because he had to sit out a few games. I don't know if that's been fully granted. But the hypothetical of who's coming back, I'll go first because I know you don't even want to answer this question, I'm sure. I can see Dayday coming back. I think Tyler Betsy comes back, Ravon, Tyler McKinley, all those guys are kind of surefire returners in my opinion. Betsy, maybe not as much. I would put that in tier 2, but my tier 1 returners, I have those guys. I have, maybe that is just tier 1. Maybe that's tier 1. And then tier 2, I'd do Tyler Betsy and Jizzle. Tier 3, Dan. I don't know if Dan's going to be back, man. I don't know. I hope Jizzle's back. What do you think? I know I'm missing guys. Aziz has got to be gone, right? Page, I would put tier 1. Page is tier 1. I'm missing him.
So the guys that are gone is going to be the guys that are out of eligibility 100%, right? So Hickman, Frederick.
Yeah. Yep.
Then you have the Aziz waiver you mentioned, which I haven't seen it updated in a long time, but what Niehaus is referring to is like there was less than 10 players. 2 of them were on our team last year, Jamil and Aziz, who had to sit out for, what was it, a month? Maybe 3 weeks at the beginning of last season due to just waiver claims, whatever it was. Waiver claims. What is this, fantasy baseball? Due to waiver things. Let's say things. And Then the Dayday thing is referring to Diego Pavia's case with JUCO. I can't rule out either of those two staying or leaving. But in terms of just like vibes, I guess I'll give a little answer. I agree on your Dan sentiment, and I'm a massive Skillings fan. I think his ceiling is NBA. I don't know what's going on this year. He looks like there were moments at the beginning when he got back after his surgery where I thought, he's about to come into form and all that, and it just hasn't worked out. But something's up there, like something's up. Plus Page, throw him in there. Just something's up. He doesn't look great. His minutes have been sharply declining. I don't know if we haven't talked about this at all, but his minutes are way down. Small ball Mitchell lineup is way up the past couple games. So those are the two I'd really be watching. Plus,
Really?
Betsy was mentioned in Trilly, his transfer watch thing about a month or two ago. So those three, I don't know. We'll see. Ask me the question in a couple weeks.
Okay. You need to clarify. Betsy was not in the transfer. He has not tagged Betsy as a portal, which when he tags somebody as a portal, he wants to hit 50% of those. So it was like pre-tagged.
It's like a tornado watch versus tornado warning.
Yes.
There's a tornado watch with Betsy.
Yes.
This was about a month ago. But maybe if he plays more, things change.
Yeah. I thought Page would be back. I guess you can transfer as many times as you want, but his minutes have declined. Again, who knows? Like, we're just completely guessing. It's not like I have talked to any of these guys, so I have no idea. But the only one I can absolutely see leaving is Dan, maybe Jizzle. I would like for Jizzle to stay, especially given the last week. But what can you say? All right, final thoughts before we get out of here. Anything? Or should we just wrap it up?
Shock the world, baby.
Shock the world. And then the "Are we back? We are back" would be back. And I would say we're back. So thanks for listening, guys. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Also hit the like button. And anywhere you get your podcasts. This is Chatterbox Bearcats midweek show. Chuck and Houdini, I'm sure, will be post-game call-in show after David takes down Goliath. Honestly, I shouldn't even have said it because we're not David. We're not. The team is, and they are Goliath, this team, but we need to be better. So that's not what I'm going to say, but we're going to shock the world like you mentioned on Saturday and take down Iowa State, hopefully, and then I think we'd make the tournament. So tall task, and that's a lot of rambling on a game that I don't think we're going to win. But hey, that's it. Chatterbox Bearcats. We will see you next time.
Shout out Vic Locken.
Oh, yeah. Let's end on that because I can't end on that awful outro. Victor Locken, if you're listening, thank you for joining the show.
Bearcat legend.
Bearcat legend. That was a electric moment. Electric moment. And the fact that Houdini, also the best part of that, if you guys didn't see, Victor Locken called in the show. We have call-in shows on the post game. Chuck goes, I think Victor Locken just is backstage. And Houdini and Chase, who are on the call, no chance. No chance it's him. And then as Chase is talking, Victor to hop in. And then Chase is go, oh, my God, it's Victor Locken. And then no way from Hudson. Pure electricity. Go find Chuck Walter on Twitter and see the clip for yourself. Also on our Instagram at Chatterbox Bearcats. Electric moment. Thank you for bringing that up, Lily. Can't believe it. Victor Locken, the blue blood killer, Bearcat legend. See you guys.